Hello, everybody. We are back, season two playoffs. For those following, well, we saw 9 weeks of my regular season. There was one lost week somewhere because I only had 9 episodes, 9 matches, but we definitely did play 10. I think I went 4-6 and missed out on playoffs, but we are here with a more successful season two coach. Bohm, say hi.
Hey, I was here in the league. This is my first season. I think I went 8-2 in regular season.
Yeah.
Think.
And we've seen your team already. We've talked about your team already from when we played during the regular season. It's really probably one of the best ever teams in this league. Just really, really well designed, and the Gigalith in particular was like very good value, tied everything together very well. Um,
Right.
so yeah, and then that versus the wrecking ball that is Braff, I think not his strongest regular season, but we can see he has a very strong team. Um, I think it's kind of I think probably most of you know he goes on to win this season. So
Mhm.
we are watching Braff versus Bohm. Let's just jump in. We have
Yep.
Braff's video as our replay. Um, so I will skip when necessary. Like we don't need to watch team preview. Um, but just as we're getting into this, do you remember at all any of your prep for this match or not really?
So the one thing I remember is I was pretty, and it's more after the fact. I was pretty upset with myself for not prepping better. And
Hmm.
this is going completely blind from what I remember from the
Hmm.
match. I just remember I didn't take this match as I didn't prep as well as I should have in this
Hmm.
match because a lot of what Braff brought was looking back now, if I remember correct, it should have been predictable to an
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah, and we see that you both have sand, so he has that sand force
Right.
Landorus, which is just gonna. It looks like it might tear through your team. Although your Gigalith
Yeah.
does eat that really well because of the sand. Um,
That
even eats
steel
the
beam
steel
right
beam
there.
too. Yeah, I mean
Ye-
uh that's enough damage on your max for the first turn that you're probably not loving the position, but the fact that he just threw a max quake and a steel beam at you and you lived it is pretty remarkable.
Right.
Um,
Did
but yeah,
did
go
it
ahead.
say what Rabambi did there? Did I speed swap there?
It looked like you may have no reflect,
Oh,
which didn't do anything.
yeah. No, definitely not.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean this Landorus is poised to do a lot of damage. Um, maybe you don't have speed swap because you're pollen puffing now. It's definitely not going to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
yeah, which is so funny. Like now in non-max, like if your pivotal Pokemon took a strong hit from Braff's pivotal Pokemon and a strong attack from the other Pokemon and then just traded, that would be pretty strong. But since you traded basically your max for a non-max Pokemon, it's already looking really tough.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I mean that's the format. That's just how it was. I miss Turtonator. Turtonator was a good, nice value fire type.
Yeah, good typing. I mean,
Yeah.
overall, on Fire Dragon, are there how many Fire Dragons do we have? Are there any besides Turtonator?
I don't know if there are any currently in the game. I feel like there definitely is another one, uh, period. Although maybe there
Rush
isn't.
Ram, but
Yeah, Reshiram definitely. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's another non-restricted one. It's a very interesting typing though. It's one of these like, types that, I kind of go back and forth if I like these types of mons like Fire Dragon, where it's like you want your fire type to be an ice resist, typically you want it to be a fairy resist typically. So it's annoying that
yeah,
it's not, but it's also a dragon type that's not a fairy or ice weakness. So it's tough to like depends what your team needs, but like if you're thinking like, oh, I really need a dragon, but I don't want an extra fairy weakness, then it's really nice, of course.
right.
Especially because like a lot of times you're getting dragon to resist fire or resist grass, and it's a quad resist on both of those. Um,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
was. That was brutal.
right there off the rip. I mean, he prepped well. He ripped off a
Yeah.
bunch of max quakes, got his
Yeah.
special defense up high enough that if I had Pat, Indeedee, Torkoal,
Hmm.
Venusaur in the back, he was going to be able to just tank everything from him.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely good prep by Braff, and I mean, the one frustrating thing I look at with that match is if I hit skill swap turn one with Rabombi, Gigalith might be in it a little bit longer. I
Yeah.
don't know if it kills Landorus. I doubt it, but
I mean,
at
at
least it
least
gives
it
me
doesn't take the steel beam, so that would be
right.
better. Because that's what you did. I don't know if you have a way to kill Landorus though, especially if you're moving before you activate weakness policy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna guess looking at this that I'm gonna switch it up and try Venusaur Torkoal to start. And
Yeah.
again, I'm 100% don't remember this, but that
Yeah.
would be a natural kind of
Yeah.
progression from the last match.
Yeah. Or like in DD Hat with Torkoal and Trick Room, depending on your sets. I don't know.
Yeah,
My worry with Torkoal Venusaur, honestly, would be that the Landorus lead, so clearly it capitalized off you setting sand, but it doesn't even need to, because the Hippo
no,
was in the back, I think, anticipating the Torkoal lead, so that if the
right,
Torkoal leads, you can switch in the sand and Oko it. I would assume you Oko it with Max Quake, or you could, airstream the Venusaur, or whatever you need to do.
right.
So we'll see. Oops. We'll see. Timer. I miss timer. I'm gonna start doing timer again this
I
season.
honestly, yeah, I kind of miss having it.
It's
They
technically in
actually
the rules. In the rules, it says that like if one person wants timer, there is timer. So
right.
I'm just gonna start doing timer again. I'm gonna stop feeling bad about it.
What did Hat and DD?
Yeah.
That looks like
Oof.
oh
Yeah. Maybe
yeah,
not. Maybe. Oof.
double expanding force into
And
the
that. Yeah.
wide
So
guard.
free curse.
Big mistake. Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe you weren't even sure that it had wide guard because like it's such a weird Pokemon to have wide guard.
right.
But
And that's the
obviously,
thing.
yeah.
Detonate
Obviously, very good
distribution's weird
hits.
on that.
Yeah, it is a weird move. It's even less this
Right.
gen, but it's always a weird distribution, but it's a weird and sparse distribution this gen. Oof.
Exactly,
Yeah,
indeed.
damn. That +1 is a doing more than I thought it would, honestly. Wait, can I go back actually? Did the Yeah, it did. Wait, no, I want to check. Sorry, if the header if the yeah, it did. Sorry, I wanted to check if the Hippowdon was Sandforce because I know Braff did do that at some point against another Sand team. I think ran
Yeah.
Sandforced Hippo to take advantage, um, and it was just a lot of damage. So I was wondering if it was Sandforce. Um, but yeah, again, I think Braff is in a strong position because you don't really have
I have
you don't really
nothing to really dig into that
yeah,
thing.
you don't have that much damage to threaten on Hippowdon. Like, oh, the burn is nice actually. I didn't expect Torkoal to have Will-O-Wisp. So I
No, I
don't think
kind of
you're yeah,
yeah, I
I don't
kind of expected to have solar beam on there, but
yeah, I don't think you're quite out of it yet, but he's got +1 on each of the bulk stats, and Gigalith can't damage Hippo a ton. It can start stacking Quake boosts of its own, I guess. Like Quake into Turtonator would be nice.
right.
Um, yeah, that's not
Ooh,
a lot of damage.
no, I went for that defense and I got Will-O-Wisp.
Yeah, so I wonder how much a Quake into Turtonator would have done. I don't know if it takes it out, but if it does, then it's an interesting position you're in. Um,
Right.
but
Yeah,
from that wide guard turn one that put so much momentum in Braff's direction, I don't think it was ever an easy game to get back into.
right. Well, there's our answer there. There's Max Quake doesn't take it out.
Yeah, but that's after the burn, so it actually would have, I think.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Turt is slower. It might be like Iron Ball. Oh no, it's faster. Never mind. Oh, so it didn't matter. You're right. I thought the Gigalith went first on the other turn. I guess I'm wrong. Or they're speed tying.
I had Trick Room up for a little bit.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. Well, I guess not paying attention. I didn't realize. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's
So
it's a pretty clean 2-0 for Braff, but let me pause this. Um yeah, so how are you feeling now after watching this
it,
match?
it pretty rough. And I mean, the nice thing about this league again is everybody who's been here a while has gotten much better at
Hmm.
kind of making those reads and everything and
Yeah.
building teams out. I mean, looking at that, there's a lot of things I think I would have prepped differently.
Yeah.
And Braff, I don't like you said earlier. I don't think Braff had the best regular season just from placement, matchup placement for the season and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
But he came into that match and he prepped way better than I did.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was his. I think you said he did go on to win that season, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a solid player, and we see it year in year out. I mean, he or season in season out, and he's just this last season was rough, but I have a feeling it's going to be a complete bounce back too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, first time he missed the playoffs in 9 seasons. I think that it's
Right.
more an exception than a trend, probably. But we'll see with Braff. But yeah, I think the matchup was a little tough for you because like it's a weird matchup for dual weather because like he wants one of your weathers, so
Right.
the to the extent that the anti-synergy exists on your team in the first place, it's
Yeah.
magnified by the fact that Braff is also trying to set sand, and Landorus was a huge problem. Um, I would be curious to see how he would deal with a chlorophyll Venusaur. Like, you just end up with some weather wars, so that would be a little bit more of a 50-50 type game. Uh, but I think he does have a strong matchup because even if he's not doing well weather-wise, Glastrier and Trick Room will do well against Venusaur,
Yeah.
obviously. So,
Yeah. And I think
um,
if it goes to game three, there, you're definitely seeing Glacier come out. And
yeah,
again, I don't remember the sets we have, but looking at that, if I'm leaning into that game again, you go Torkoal, Venusaur, and you try to get that sleep powder out on the
yeah,
stretch.
yeah, I
I
would
mean,
agree.
that right there kind of disrupts it and gives you at least some advantage instead of just relying on Max the whole
Yeah,
time. That was the hard thing about Dynamax is anytime you've sometimes you felt like turn one you're going to max right away, and then other
yeah,
times you get outplayed because people are burning, sleeping, paralyzing your max
yeah,
form.
yeah. And then also, I think the Turtonator bring from him was really smart because it will take minimal damage from Torkoal, even if it doesn't wide guard. It has wide guard for Torkoal, for Hatterene, for Indeedee, to some extent for Gigalith as well. Earthquakes and Rock
Right.
Slides don't like wide guard, obviously. So that was a really key bring as well. So obviously well done by him. Tough end to a very strong season from you, but I like how you said like we have all like really grown. So like I think it's funny that like this was probably results wise your best season, like 8-2, and like yeah, you
Right.
lost first round of the playoffs, but you were best or second best team in the regular season, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so one of your strongest seasons record wise, but at the same time you can watch it now and say, oh yeah, I could definitely play this better than I did. So I think that's a very clear indication of how far the like general power level of the league has changed.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because last season alone we had how many people that were first timers made the playoffs?
A
And
lot.
it's not just us growing as a league and as players, but it's the people we're bringing in are getting
Yeah,
better and
true.
better each time.
Very true, very true. And I think that has a lot to do with like we're a little bit more of an established presence. Like um, friends of Electric join the league all the time. Friends of numerous coaches have joined. Like your friend joined the league, right? Rich Weave
Yeah, yeah,
is an
Rich
IRL
Weave.
friend.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, but
So
he's he had never played before, as hard
yeah,
as it is to
that's fair.
believe.
That's fair. But just I think the general expansion of like our uh, web of players has allowed us to bring in a lot more interested and a lot stronger like first time players or at least first time VBLS players. Whereas in the past, like I remember I would be like advertising on like r/VGC Reddit, which is a little, um, it's not super ideal because you're not really advertising in draft league communities at that point, so you're not necessarily getting the people who are most invested.
Right.
Um, and I think that's probably the biggest barrier for a new coach. Not like obviously the lack of experience is uh, puts you at a disadvantage, but if you don't like fully buy in, that really kills you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I really love your team, but at the same time, and again, it's just because you know I'm probably affected by watching how the set turned out,
Yeah.
and um, seeing the six that the two of you brought. But it does feel like Braff has a positive matchup on you. And one of the things that I was thinking about today, actually, because I was watching the old PRs, um, I don't think in Gen and I want your take on this as well. I don't
Yeah.
think in Gen 9 that the strongest teams in the league can possibly be as strong as in Gen 8, and that's because Dynamax and the lack so Dynamax makes like winning matchups more achievable, just like straight up winning. You can't beat this. Like sometimes they're just a team that cannot beat Celesteela, for instance. And
Right.
on the flip side, Terra goes in the opposite direction, where Terra makes any matchup theoretically winnable because you can just like
Yeah.
have a ground type if you didn't before.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that because look back at the Dynamax era. You've got Pokemon doubling their health, good Pokemon doubling their health.
Yeah,
Megalith, Celesteela. I mean, bulky Pokemon that and double their health and then start putting out major damage
yeah,
against you and
yeah,
also get boost, whether it's
yeah,
speed, defense, special defense, attack,
yeah.
etc.
And they weren't
It's
made equal
hard to stop
also.
the snowballing.
Exactly, yeah.
And
And like,
3 turns is a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. And also just like the different boosts were not made equal, which made it even worse because like
Right.
Celesteela was already stupid, and then on top of that, its stabs gave it speed boost and defense boost, like,
Yeah.
and it also had Quake if it needed a Spadef boost. Like, you can't kill it. It can end up going really fast. It's decently strong already, plus it's using 140 base power moves. And if you hit it, it has a weakness policy that, and you're just gonna like tickle it, and you'll
Yeah.
double its damage. Um, which was a real problem, especially because you couldn't do the like, you didn't have the fluidity of typing that we have now with Terra. Um,
Right.
so I do obviously still think team quality is a big thing. And I think on the lower end, I think it's more damaging. I don't know if I think it's like about as damaging to have a not good team in Terra as Dynamax because um, you know, if you're it's a little different where it's just like if your team can't adapt to a lot of things, it really just feels like you're on the back foot all the time. Like that was my
Yeah.
season 8 team. But I don't think that like your best teams are as good as they were in Dynamax just cuz no one thing can be as centralizing and dominant as
Right.
some Dynamax threats.
Yeah. The thing I like about season 9 overall, and I was hesitant going in
Hmm.
to or season 9, yeah, season 9 and 10, 8, 9 and 10. And I was hesitant going into Gen 9 is
Yeah.
you look at Terra going into it and you're thinking this is going to be an absolute mess.
Yeah.
So we get into it and we're establishing things. And I know like people started out with the Terra captains in other leagues, and I'm glad we never
Hmm.
went that route.
Yeah, I don't like that
Um,
either.
but it's amazing how well balanced it is. It's
Yeah.
right now I think it is the best gimmick we've had overall.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
I'm surprised by how balanced it's been. It feels really good, honestly.
yeah, and I don't know how they're going to top it going forward because
Yeah,
I mean everybody was I like the Mega Evolutions because it's nostalgic at that point.
yeah,
I mean I hated Z moves. I thought those were stupid. Dynamax was okay, but again, it like we're talking about when it comes to the draft league, it just some teams did not feel fair or
yeah,
balanced. It was
yeah,
whoever got that big bulky mon who can snowball.
yeah. I mean, I really liked Dynamax by the end in draft. Like, but I think that the key thing is like, so we did the Gen 8 no max for what 2 seasons, and then also BDSP actually. Um, but we did that, and that was fun. It was really just like a different. It's almost like playing a different game with Dynamax, but I don't
Right.
necessarily have a problem with that. But there are
No.
certainly things about Dynamax that the ways that it makes the game different, which aren't all bad. Like I did like the weakness policy stuff. I think it's fun that you could just
Yeah.
like you know click buttons and kill stuff. That part of Dynamax was fun. Like it just was. But a lot of the stuff that it didn't allow you to do, like especially some of the weird stuff, like um, you can't skill swap a Dynamax Pokemon, and there were a lot of moves like that where it takes out a lot of niche options,
Yeah.
Dynamax, just because of how the mechanic was set up. Also, just because like you know, Decorate is a niche for Alchemy, but it couldn't really use it because you would just Steel Spike it and it dies. So
Right.
it effectively wasn't something that you could do. Uh, and I do like non-max a little more for that reason, just because there's a little more openness to do different things.
Yeah. It gives you opportunity to be a little more creative with a lot of it. It gave
Yeah,
us
I would
as
agree.
a whole an opportunity to be more creative. And then going into Gen 9, it's the same thing, except
Yeah,
what I noticed is there's move distribution on certain moves
yeah,
was a little more restricted to avoid some of those gimmicky things, I think.
yeah. That's true. Um, and another thing I actually really like about the Terra, which is kind of this is kind of a tangent e, but
Yeah.
I just kind of want to note it because it just came into my head. Um, I do like the like I don't even know what it's called, but the like minimum uh Terra stab boost. It's a really
Oh, yeah, yeah,
interesting it's a really interesting thing which I didn't even realize until like Iron Moth Acid Spray was like becoming meta. Um
yeah. Right.
but like I mean, this isn't really I'm not really leaking secrets on my team. Obviously, Grim sorry, Spectre really likes that it has Draining Kiss now for fairy coverage. I've been
Yeah.
using some Spectre on ladder. 60 base power on Draining Kiss really does make a big difference. Like you
Oh,
can,
yeah.
after getting a boost with Spectre especially, you can get some Okos, heal all the way back up. Like it's devastating.
Because
Um,
Draining Kiss, what percentage does it heal? It heals a pretty high
50,
percentage.
yeah, 50%.
Jeez.
It's a good move for Spectre, like a sneaky good move.
Right.
Like
And it's not really something you're looking for in prep,
no,
really, either.
no, Draining Kiss is typically a move that I think of as like very niche, like especially in like Hatterene, but um, it's a real threat on Spectre just because you can't if it's doing its like scaling Grimnane, I'm gonna kill your entire team. First of all, if it's Sash, you need to kill it. You can't just let it sit there. But also, if you're
Yeah.
not getting it in one turn, if you don't have priority, it's gonna be a problem because it's just gonna heal itself back up. So, it's really nice actually.
Yeah,
Um,
that's scary, especially
yeah.
considering we play this season and I have somewhat of a fairy weakness. So I'm going to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Oh, and that was another thing I was thinking about today actually, because I started looking at your team just because I finished or basically finished prepping for Daddy, and
Yeah.
Jordan correctly told me that I was just like, because like I kept like dissecting things that didn't need to be dissecting. He's like, you're over prepping, and I was like, I should just start looking at week 2 because I want to play so badly, and I need to put this somewhere productive because I
Yeah.
should be done with week 1 prep. So I started
Right.
looking at your team because that's week 2, and it occurred to me actually, I think we've played a lot since you've joined.
I think you're right.
I
It's at
think,
least every other season. If not,
yeah,
I think we played most.
well, because we definitely played last season, we definitely played this season, we definitely played season 2. I'm feel like we played either season 3 or season 4, so we've played a bunch
Right.
together, um, which is fun. It's always fun to play you. I feel like I feel like both of us actually tend to have like the bulkier style team. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, I agree with it. I tend to value bulk a little bit more in most of my drafts
Yeah,
just because
same.
I feel it gives me more flexibility with my team.
Yeah,
And
same.
I also like last season is a good example of it. I put a lot of bulk in and not much offense if I'm
Yeah.
looking back at it. And it's like it was fun, don't get me wrong, but at the same time I'm not hitting things hard.
Yeah.
And it's leading to the match versus Ray where I'm playing almost a 60 turn game because we're just both bulky at the end with slow
Yeah.
growing
That
guard.
was so funny. Yeah. No, and I mean, I felt that playing against you last season too, where it's just like, all right, Covert Cloak deals with his long-term damage options, and if I just start leech seeding stuff, I'll win. So like,
Right.
it you can definitely take bulking too far. You definitely want to like, especially if you're going like very bulky, you want to. And this is what I was trying to help Jordan with, like, because he was doing Ting Lu draft, and we talk a lot about draft stuff. So I was trying to help him like establish this balance, even within your bulk mode, of just like you want some scaling to eventually kill
Right.
stuff, but you also just want some like timers. So Perish Song is a timer, Salt Cure is a timer, Leech Seed is a timer, toxic timer. So I think they're like the two routes to go about it. I think if you're building a really bulky team, you ideally want both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think, and I mean, with looking at my current team now and like looking at the moves I made and everything else,
Hmm.
I'm looking at it and I'm a little less bulky, I feel like, than I normally am. Besides the defense stat, which I mean is
Yeah.
like 4 months at the bottom are making that rise up as high as it is. But
Yeah.
I feel like I have a better balance after getting rid of Cress. And
Yeah.
I think that'll make things, I mean, it'll either go well for me or I'm just going to try to play bulkier to my normal style and it won't work out too well.
Yeah. That's fair. Um, what I've thought about this season, so like, um, roaring mid, as the people are calling it, I really don't think it's bad. Actually, I think I can very specifically, um, detail why it didn't work on my team. Basically, my team was just like mostly pretty slow, which meant that I ended up leaning on Roaring Moon to either be faster than stuff and kill them, or Tailwind, which put it in a really uncomfortable position where it wasn't allowed to just like kill stuff. I know James also didn't get the most out of Roaring Moon, but
Right.
and forget the complete composition of his team. But if I drafted it again, I would definitely go more his route of like pair it with Talonflame. If you don't want Talonflame one week, then you can do that Roaring Moon fast, like combo support stuff.
Right.
But you don't need to, and I think that's what I tried to do a lot this season with my top four specifically of Grim, Spectre, Mousehold, Quack. I don't want to prevent any of those Pokemon from doing what they can do when they want to do it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that's why, specifically the top three, uh, Grim, Spec, and Mouse, they can all do support and support each other very specifically, but they can also all do pretty big damage. So
Right.
I can kind of choose, you know, when they need to be supports and when they need to be damage. I do think there's been some fair criticism in some of the like PR type stuff that it might be a little too supporty. So like I might have gone too far in the other direction where maybe there's some matchup where Mousehold normally would want to be a support, but I need to just click Population Bomb because I'm not getting the damage elsewhere. So it's
Yeah.
certainly possible that I went too far in the other direction.
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I've had teams in the past where it felt like I drafted things almost in pairs, and one
Yeah,
Pokemon was supposed to do the damage, and the
yeah,
other one was supposed to
exactly.
enable that Pokemon. And
Yeah,
then when one of them dies and you're sending something else out, there's just no synergy with them.
yeah,
And a lot of that, I'm looking at this season, and I mean, when I'm looking at the draft board for this season, I mean, I wanted Grim. I'll be
yeah.
completely upfront
Grim is
honest because
sick.
I wanted to pair Grim and Sneasler together because I feel like they enable each other very well.
Interesting. I
But
didn't think about that, but that is interesting now that you say it.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people have seen the swagger mirror
Yeah,
Earth thing
yeah,
with
yeah,
Sneasler. So I mean, I like the idea of that, but I can also kind of pull some pressure off of Grimmsnarl. I could have mixed up sets like that and
yeah.
just had
That's
Grim be
true.
the main attacker and Sneasler be more of like he can pop his own ability easy,
Hmm.
fake out normal gem, close
Hmm.
combat, and
Yeah,
fighter or whatever it is. And that's what I wanted out of him. And that's why I ended up reaching
yeah,
and just grabbing him first at the end. Is
yeah.
he has the ability to kind of do his own thing, but can also rely on some of those other mons I picked up too.
Hmm.
And that's I
Hmm.
wanted that flexibility, and that's what I'm trying to look more into is finding those mons that can deal some damage, have their own thing they can do themselves, but also kind of run alongside other mons too.
Yeah, yeah. Can I actually talk a little bit about Sneasler since you drafted it? Because I'm really intrigued by it. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So obviously, super fast fake out is always going to be a good thing to have. You're
right.
talking about the unburden. So if it gets its unburden off, it's faster than everything, which is a good thing to have. But it's also because it's so fast. Normally, it doesn't even need unburden a lot of the time. I'm guessing.
No,
Um,
no,
so
definitely not.
yeah, so Sash with the chance to get unburdened, or Sash with Poison Touch, just two chances to, or maybe two chances to just poison something could be good. But like it's a very good unburden user, but definitely doesn't need it, which I think is nice because like Driftblim suffers from that a little, where it's like
Right.
it needs to get the unburden off, which kind of
Yeah.
restricts it. Then you have the acrobatic stuff, um, which I tried to do, which I, sorry, not tried to do, I wanted to do with Roaring Moon, but it was hard to justify because again, it was trying to carry so much weight on like being fast and supporting the team. So that was a
Yeah.
struggle. But I like that you're more able to do that. Then obviously CC, one of the best stabs in the game. Dire Claw, really stupid move. Just really
Oh, I know.
stupid.
That
Um,
was that was honestly the main draw. I mean,
yeah, no,
it
you're going to win
broke it,
games off Dire Claw.
right?
Um, like if it was 60 base power, it would be annoying, but like kind of balanced because it's
Yeah.
it'd be like you're usually using a weak attack, but you might just win. So the fact that it's like 80 is not super strong. Like I would think of, I would start calling a stab strong when it hits 90 base power, but 80 is like the standard reasonable stab. So you have a
Right.
like standard power stab that might just win you the game, just like off the bat win you the game, which is just
Yeah.
insane.
And
Um,
the value it brings in prep too. Poison's a
yeah,
pretty easy type to kind of counter if you tear a
yeah,
steel.
yeah.
You tear a steel in front of it, I'm probably carrying a fighting move on him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and CC doesn't play nice.
No, no.
Yeah.
I mean, poison
Then
fighting is a much better type when you have a mon that can actually use it effectively, unlike Toxicroak.
yeah. Although Toxicroak, like I think Toxicroak is a great example of like this is a really good typing. Like it has the 4 times psychic weakness, and
Right.
fighting is usually not the best defensive typing, but like this is a good defensive typing. Toxicroak, despite not having the greatest stats, um, is actually, you know, pretty reliably like eats a hit. And
Right.
what would typically give me some, uh, you know, worry with this Sneasler, defensively at least, is the physical defense. But you know, seeds can fix that. Seeds can give you
Right.
+1 defense, and then you're cooking, right?
Yeah. And
Uh,
that's I mean that's part of my thought. And I did. Everybody said something about reaching for Thwacky, but I'm like I'm getting what I want to make
hmm
sure that I can run things the way I want it. And I
yeah,
mean I thought he was a good value for I think 5 points or something, 5 or 6.
yeah. I think it's good value. I think it'll be interesting to see how you figure out how to use it because obviously it was a very easy to use value mon in the past where you just click Grassy Glide. But like,
Yeah.
even off 80 attack, with terrain boost, Woodhammer really
Right.
strong. So if
Yeah.
things aren't, you know, spending enough time worrying about Thwacky, they could die. and that might catch some people off guard because it doesn't seem like a strong Pokemon.
Yeah, and I mean, what is Thwacky really doing on the field besides maybe faking something out?
Hmm.
I mean, what's the harm in throwing a choice band on him and
Oh yeah,
clicking Woodhammer and just
yeah,
hoping he takes something out because he's not getting the pressure most of the time.
yeah,
I mean, you have to think that Oko's quite a bit.
yeah.
Grass isn't the worst stab.
No, it's not. Especially when you have terrain up. Like if it was a little faster, that would obviously be nice, but like it has
Yeah,
good utility as well, like knockoff. And if you're Eviolite, having like I don't know, fake out, knock off, endeavor, drain punch, like you have lots of moves that can just do stuff slowly. Even U-turn, keep it as a defensive switch in, or just Woodhammer, kill something. It
yeah,
definitely has stuff to do still.
right,
It'll be a little harder to deploy than in the past because priority is so helpful, but
right.
it still has stuff to do for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. I mean, and overall, I mean, going across, we've talked about our teams quite a bit, but looking
Yeah.
across the board, there's every team we see in both conferences looks
Hmm.
solid. Like this
Yeah.
has
Oh
been the
yeah.
highest like jump in power level I think we've had in quite a while.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Um, Sorry, I'm still looking at Sneasler. I'm really excited to see what you do with this thing because it's not like you don't just draw up a plan for it and say, okay, this thing is going to be amazing. Like I know exactly how to deploy this thing to, I don't know, what was it, like 17 points ish or more.
Yeah, 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 17.
Oh, damn. Yeah, so it's like, other 17 pointers, again, I'm not looking at, I guess I could pull up the tiers. But they have pretty straightforward ways to, you know, hit that value. Sneasler, like, it has some stuff, but like, if you're just CCing, I don't know if it's quite reaches that value, but it has all these like weird little things it can do.
Yeah,
It's not gonna play linear at all, and I'm just very excited to see what it can do, honestly.
right. And I mean, if it can do its job and get two, three KOs,
Oh yeah,
I mean
for
that's
sure.
well worth it at that point. That's what I'm hoping from it.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to bring him into it too much because I've been looking at the other conference too. But take a look at KC's team.
I'll take a look.
It's it's a much better version, in my opinion, if you're
Wait,
trying to
is
enable
it?
Sneasler than what I have. I don't know how he managed to get the top four mons he got. Actually,
Wait, I
top
don't.
five really.
Oh, he's NorCal Noibat now. I was looking for
Yeah,
California
yeah, yeah.
Colossal. Yeah.
I should have said that.
Um, yeah, no, sorry, I forgot it was no, because he was California Colossals for so long. That's what I was looking for. Um,
Right.
yeah, it's a really nice top. Obviously I love Grim. Uh, Grim Sneasler, you have the swagger stuff, which is fun. Gudra is really good. Rillaboom is better. Thwacky, Salamence is really good. Um, yeah, I mean that's a team that plays really non like you could bring Grimmsnarl, Gudra, Rillaboom, Sneasler, Salamence, and Moltres every week probably.
Right.
And they could basically like all do different things. Maybe not every week, like Rillaboom only has so many sets. Grimmsnarl probably
Yeah.
does the same thing most of the time, or approximately the same thing most of the time. But a lot of those things are, you could bring that six over and over and over again, and all of those things can do like three or four entirely different things, which is
Right.
really cool. But is yours is a little wider, right? I wasn't looking
A
at
little
your
bit.
full team.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
I think my lowest mon is five or six, maybe.
yeah,
Maybe I have a
yeah.
four.
Oh yeah, I was looking at your team today. Yeah, you have 11 like totally bringable mons. And they all
Yeah.
kind
I
of
don't.
do different stuff. Um, you also, how many Pokemon did you swap out? Was it two or three?
Only three.
Okay.
Only three actually. I thought I was gonna do for whatever reason in my head when I was planning it out and talking
Yeah.
to the old group. I thought I was doing four. Then I
Yeah.
sat down and actually wrote it down. I'm like, oh no, I'm actually in a good place. I can still make a transaction if this doesn't fully work out.
Yeah. Well, so what was, I mean, I think that's an interesting topic. Like, what was the thinking going into that of you haven't played a game yet, but you were sure you wanted to change it up. So what was, what went into that?
It actually wasn't so much that as it was I was helping Rich look at the board because he wanted to mix a few things up and was trying to take some looks. And I saw Bronzong sitting there, and I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sitting on Reverum and Espeon when I know they don't do the same thing, but I can swap those both out and get Bronzong. And I'm like,
Yeah.
he could do other things. It's kind of I felt like it was a better steel type to have on the team for sure.
Mhm.
It felt like a
Mhm.
more bringable steel type. And
Yeah.
so I shouted in the old group and I'm like, hey, what do you guys think about doing this transaction? And I sent them stuff. And then I can't remember who said it, but they're like, I think you need to get backs and get rid of Cress. And
Backs.
I'm like,
Wow.
yeah. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, let's take a look and see what that looks like. So
Oh yeah.
we're looking through, and then somebody threw out Hydreigon, and I'm like,
I love
I was
that.
like,
Yeah.
either of those can work because now Zoroark has a purpose, like
Yeah.
right there, right away. He's just
Yeah.
instantly enabled a little bit better because now he has something that fighting stabs want to go into.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
it feels a little better that way too. And I mean, overall, it just made more sense. And I sat on the idea for a few hours and was like, okay, I'm gonna think through this. I put a little poll in the old group too to see what they thought to have them vote, and it was kind of overwhelming. Hydreigon, I think like 4-1 or
Yeah,
something,
I
or
love it.
4-0.
Yeah, no, I love the move. I think it's interesting that you made such a big change on your team so early, but I think it makes a lot of sense for you because Cress was like a little out of place. For
Yeah,
what your team is, Bronzong will do most. Well, Bronzong is a very different Pokemon. Like Cress is, they're similar in that they're both absurdly bulky, levitate
right.
Trick Room setters, but Cress operates a little more in fast mode with Icy Wind and just being faster, and it sets up a little better. But Bronzong has better typing, uh, more resisted hits for sure for Bronzong. Um,
Yeah,
Definitely fits into more of a support role. Uh, it does have Iron Defense Body Press setup, but with Calm Minds, I think Cress is a much better setup mod. It'll be
right.
really nasty, I think, actually, as an Electric Terra with Bolt Beam and Calm Mind. But I still think that like downgrading it to Bronzong for like 8 points or whatever, to free up to get stuff like Hydreigon is really really nice for your team. Because like you said, it gives people something to actually, some reason to actually whiff into Zoroark, and that's
Yeah,
like its strongest uh, capability is that it can just like be something else, and then your moves don't connect. Uh,
right.
and just as far as like comparing your team to KC's, like KC has some like stronger combos at the top, but in some ways your team is a little more threatening just because like you want to stop maybe Morgrim Sneasler stuff, but how does that change if Zoroark's in the lead? Or
Yeah,
it totally changes how you play if Hydreigon's in the lead because now, especially with the Morgrim screens, that is a nasty setup mod. Nasty. With
yeah,
with crits, with nasty plots, whatever. Um,
right.
so I do
That was
really like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was the hardest thing. I started prepping for Ben, and
yeah.
I don't think I've ever beat Ben. I think he's mopped the floor with me every time. Which great player,
Oh yeah,
every season
for
he
sure.
plays. And I'm like looking, and I've Crescent the lineup I was bringing. I'm like, what is this thing doing? Everything else I already had planned to move set. I'm like, I don't even know what Crest is doing here. And
Yeah,
then when they brought that up, I'm like, this might be what I need to do to kind of make this team better. And I mean, I was all about trying to prove the tier lists and stuff wrong, and
yeah,
which I mean, I've been in this long enough. I don't take any of that to heart or
yeah,
anything like that. But I'm like, you know what? If everybody's calling that out and I'm consistently at the bottom, I need to probably rethink that a little bit.
yeah. No, and I think there was a way that your team worked, the previous team. Like, I probably wouldn't
Right.
have been as negative as everyone just because I'm pretty sure that Cresselia is disgusting,
Yeah.
once someone actually uses it. But, um, there is something to be said for just like, uh, maybe there's a diamond in the rough there synergistically, but it didn't really seem to fit with your team. Maybe with Morgrim, maybe with Tauros, just because they help bulk it out more. But for 22 points, you really want to make the most of it. Like that's how I always think of those
Yeah.
high tiers, is like, how do you make the most of that point total? Otherwise, like for Cresselia, if it was just going to be a bulky Trick Room setter on your team, which I don't think it was, but if that were the case, then Bronzong does most of what Cress was going to do anyway. But if you know, had a team that took advantage of all the different toys Cress has to play with, like, a true bona fide top tier Trick Room sweeper that could really use the new healing move, which is really, really good, then you're
Right.
really getting the full value out of Cress and, you know, making that 8 point difference between it and Bronzong uh, feel important. And if you can't make it feel
Yeah.
important, then you don't really need it. It's like wasted points, right?
Right. And I mean, just looking right now, the first thing I thought of somebody being able to use it,
Yeah.
Sora could probably pick up Cresselia and pair it with Ursaluna and give everybody a big headache right away.
Yeah. Oh God.
Just looking at his team, he has the ability to do it. It just depends on what he values on his team.
Oh jeez. Oh my God. Now I'm looking at Yuxi Charizard. That's the points for a Cresselia. Obviously, you would be
Yep.
short a Mon, but you
I
know,
mean,
sh-
he could swing it.
Yuxi Charizard into Cresselia,
Squawkability.
and yeah, Bagmon plus Squawkability, and then like instead of Squawkability, a 3 pointer.
Right.
Or no, wait, yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, I don't like that. But again, but like even for Sora, like how much of Cresselia's job is done by Yuxi? Like, can you,
Yeah.
how is it really 11 points of difference? Because Yuxi is really bulky. Yuxi will set Trick Room. Yuxi will levitate. Um, Obviously has the same typing as Cresselia. Doesn't have some of the moves. Doesn't work
No.
in fast mode as well. Isn't quite as bulky. But how important is that to that team? I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
And
Um,
I'm sure the thought has probably crossed his mind already since yesterday.
Probably
So
yes.
it's a matter of time before we find out. I mean, we've got the soft end date to transactions before they take place the next week. So
Yeah.
maybe he makes one before, maybe he does it down the road.
Yeah. I feel like that's the type of mon that people won't pick up. I mean, I would be curious to see if
Yeah.
someone does, like what the team would be. Um, Maybe Sora could justify it because having a top tier duo that's that strong is just good, obviously. But Crest is just that kind of thing where it's like if you buy into it, you kind of buy into it early.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like for Sora, like I feel like a lot of people have justified not taking Cresselia on a team that would be a good fit for Cresselia because they feel like bulky Trick Room setter is a role that could be filled easily
Easily.
by
Yeah.
cheaper mons, which I think is true. But again, I think people really need to respect what Cresselia can do. I, in particular, am very worried about a Bolt Beam Terra. Like, Terra Electric Cresselia in general is terrifying to me. Absolutely
Yeah.
terrifying. Because, like, Electros doesn't die. Electros is like it's like half of a Cresselia.
Right.
It has 85 HP, 80 defense, 80 special defense. Um, Cresselia has 120 HP, 110 defense, 120 SPDF. And yeah, Cresselia doesn't have a lot of weaknesses in the first place, so maybe it's a case of like diminishing returns. Um, but you know when there are ghost attacks, you know when there are dark attacks. People are going to
Yeah.
be bringing them. They're going to be bringing Terras into Ghost or Dark to deal with Cresselia. And if you just Terra Electric, take only neutral damage, leftovers, Moonlight, I don't know how you kill it. Um,
No.
I don't know. And it's one of the few things that has ally switch, which is just like cherry on top. You can't do any
Right.
damage. And if you try to do damage to my other Pokemon, you actually hit me and you're still not doing any damage.
Right.
Ugh,
It's yeah. It's
it's
borderline
insane.
broken in
It
a
is
lot of ways.
insane. Also,
especially if you get on the right team.
yeah, and maybe Yuxi does a lot of that too, but like I don't know, Yuxi has the base defenses are really high, obviously, but it has 75 HP. Like it is a lot less bulky than Cress. It has a lot of the
Right.
same tools. It is even faster, so it can play in fast mode a little too, but it doesn't have that icy wind that
No.
is so dominant on Cress. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we'll see how those work out. But yeah, that's a lot of season 10 talk, and
Right. Yeah, a little
uh,
bit of a tangent, but
no, it's what the people want right now.
right.
Um,
Yeah, that's true.
and I was gonna say, I think we also got enough season 2 talk. But that's season 2 for you. That's almost season 2 for me. Got a few more episodes. Have any parting words for the people?
Good luck this season, and if you have a great season, don't blow it first round of the playoffs.
All right, bye everyone.